How do you win chess games? You have to checkmate your opponent. Well, in this video, we're going to go over checkmating patterns so you know how to checkmate your opponent. I'm going to go over the basic checkmating patterns I think you guys should know in order to checkmate anyone. And also, we're going to go over how to integrate these patterns into an actual real-life chess game. Anyway, let's dive in and let's play some chess. Okay, the first pattern we're going to go over, I call Assassin's Mate. Now, I'm not sure if you'll find the actual name to this pattern, but it's a very important concept. Now, when I was learning chess, they would call 2 rooks on the 7th rank hogs because they eat everything. So it's a good strategy in general to get 2 of your rooks on the 7th rank like this, because once they do, they're almost unstoppable. Now they're calling them assassins instead of hogs, and I think Assassin's Mate sounds pretty cool. So if you hear Assassin's Mate in the future, you heard it here first. Okay, so basically Assassin's Mate is when you have 2 rooks on the 7th rank, and we have the, usually, well, we don't do that. Usually the king is on g8, and we have a rook here right next to the king. That's important, so the king cannot move to the left. It can only move to the right. So we have check. The king has to slide over to h8. We have check. The king slides back on the g8. And then we have checkmate. Now, if you don't believe me that this could work, well, it's actually very common. I'm going to show you a real game of mine where I played this. So let's take a look how Assassin's Mate works in a real game. So this is a real game of mine, and I saw the possibility of Assassin's Mate because I have the 2 rooks on the 7th, and the king is on g8, and what do you know? The rook's right next to the king. This is a very common position. So if I felt like if this pawn wasn't here and this rook wasn't here, I would have the Assassin's Mate checkmate. So here I just actually sacked the queen. Now, my opponent took back, and I got the Assassin's checkmate. However, now it should be noted that in this position, after I took the rook, my opponent should have just taken my rook in order to neutralize that. Now I would take, and now the Assassin's Mate's not there. However, I would have a rook that would take these pawns, and I would go on to win the game anyway, so I saw both. Anyway, there you have it, Assassin's Mate in a real-life chess game. Okay, the next one we're going to go over is a very basic one. It's a battery. Usually with the queen and bishop, they form a battery at h7 is usually the target. And in this position, if we want to check the enemy king, and we don't want the enemy king to take us, so we form a battery with the bishop. So the bishop's providing backup here. And in this position, we have checkmate. Now, what would that look like in a real game? Okay, let's take a look. All right, so how does it work in a real life game? You'll see we have a battery with the bishop and the queen. However, we have our own knight in the way. Black has a knight guarding h7. So what do we do here? Pause your videos and see how we can clear and pave a way for this battery to hit the king and also remove the defenders at the same time. In this position, I played knight takes f6. Now I'm clearing the way for my queen and bishop, and I'm also throwing in a check. So black has to take back and stop the checkmate, which he did. He took back with the knight. It's the only move that stops the checkmate. But here I just remove the defender, and now if black takes back, he gets checkmated and loses the game. So in this position, black had to play this just to survive, but then he would lose his queen. So in this case, he resigns. Okay, moving on to the next mating pattern, we have what is called the Arabian checkmate. This is the Arabian checkmate. It's with a rook and a knight, and they work really well together. As you can see, the knight backs up the rook. It's checking the king, and the king cannot come here due to the knight, and it cannot come here due to the rook. So it's when the king is in the corner, we have the potential of Arabian's mate when we have a rook and a knight. Now, how does this work in a real-life game? Well, I will show you here. So in this position, I double the rooks. Notice how I have Assassin's Mate lined up. So I'm actually going for that. And my opponent knows that with the rook next to the king, let's say if he kept the rook there, we would have check, check, and checkmate. So my opponent knows that the rook can't be next on f1 or else he'll get checkmated. So in this position, my opponent actually moved the rook over. So this would not be checkmate anymore. So if I come here, check, and he has this square for his rook. Now this would be a checkmate anyway, a ladder mate. However, it also uncovered another mate that I was able to do, the Arabian mate. So I just simply took here with the knight, and now we have the same concept. We have the knight and rook attacking h2 here. The king is in the corner, and there's no way to stop checkmate here. My opponent tried the queen, and I used the Arabian checkmate to win the game. Okay, moving on to the next one. We have a smothered checkmating pattern. Smothered checkmate. This is one of the coolest ones. How do you know you have smothered checkmate? Well, we have to have an open diagonal to the king. This is usually the a2, g8 diagonal. And we have to have a queen and a knight. So, and also black cannot be controlling f7 or else it doesn't work. So in this position, we have all those things. Black is not controlling f7. And here we just have knight f7. The king has to move into a discovery. Now we just move to h6, double check, queen and knight form a check. Black has two options, h8 or f8. If f8, we have immediate checkmate. So black has to go to h8. And now here we don't repeat the whole pattern. We just sacrifice the queen. Black cannot take with the king due to the knight. And therefore black has to take with the rook. And then we throw in the check on f7, which is smothered checkmate. The king cannot move. And that's also important why black cannot be guarding f7. Because if black was guarding f7 with another piece here, then that would not be smothered mate. They would just take our knight. Okay, so how does that work in a real life game? Okay, let's take a look at this game. My opponent was 2138 rated, so a strong player. But he missed this concept. So we have a queen, a knight. We have this potentially, we can open up this diagonal. It's not open yet, but I figured if this was open, we would be in season here. So try to pause your videos and see what I played here. Okay, in this position, I just took the bishop on d5. If black throws any in-between moves here, it's not a problem because I will just block with the rook. So in this position, black took the rook. He didn't know what I was doing. And then in this position, I just threw in a check and the king moved. Now I should say that if the rook moves here, that wouldn't be great. I would just throw in a check here and then checkmate. So black came back to h8. And then here we go. We have the smothered mate checkmating pattern. Now, I should say black can take here, but he would get back rank checkmated, so that's another issue that we'll get into later. But black didn't want to do that, so he figured he might be safe just coming here. But now we have the check, the double check, and now we finish the mating pattern by sacking the queen, and there's no control over f7, so that is smothered checkmate. So that's how it works in a real-life game. Okay, now what's next here? We have back rank checkmate. This is one of the most basic checkmates. It's simply when you just move your rook or a queen down to the last rank, check the enemy king, and he cannot get out because there's a fortress in front of him. So it's called a back rank because he's stuck on the back rank. So how would this work in a real life game? Well, in this position, we have two rooks and a queen. Black has two rooks and a queen. What do we do here? How do we get rid of the defense to the back rank? If we just go forward here, check, it doesn't work because black would just take back and black would be totally fine. So here we actually have a pretty good move here. We just swap the queens first, and now when black takes back, there's only one defender of the back rank, but we have two rooks, so it's check and checkmate. There you have it. All right, guys, that's it for today. Hopefully you found that video entertaining, educational, and helpful. If you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button as usual so you don't miss out on future content. Anyway, get out of here. Go play some chess.